So my belt trajectory, if I can say that word, was I got my purple belt in 1999, and then I got my brown belt in 2001, and I got my black belt in 2014. So yeah, 13 years in there. And so yeah, there's a bunch. The question that everybody always asks is like, were you training during that time? And yeah, I was training. It wasn't like I took 10 years off and I'm like, it took me 13 years. But no, I was training all the way through, and I was actually teaching all the way through, and at some point running an academy, and at other points running other people's schools, and I kind of bounced around a bunch. So things that happen at that point, I've had depression my whole life, so that's always been kind of a struggle for me. When I was a kid, I struggled in school. I was like in special ed from like 7th grade on, so that was always like a challenge for me. I've never been a quick learner. Like, it's kind of funny, but like it takes a lot for me to like absorb a move. Like, people like, oh, you're so creative or whatever. But it takes a lot for me to like understand a move. Like, it's probably why I like to tinker with stuff, because that's sort of my process. Like, I have to tinker with stuff. Otherwise I don't understand it. So I've always struggled with, learning things, and struggled in school. And there was always that kind of depression thing that always kind of hung over me throughout my life. And at that 13-year period, it was a lot of that going on. A lot of depression, a lot of, I gained some weight. I didn't look like how I look now. At one point I gained up over 50 pounds. I was never that big guy. Like, this is my normal size. I'm tall and thin and kind of skinny. And I was always tall and thin and skinny. But then when I hit my early 30s, I started I never ate good when I was in my 20s. I was that guy that could eat like anything. Like, I just eat whatever I wanted, and I never gained weight. Like, I tried to gain weight when I was younger. You know what I mean? I could never gain weight. I remember trying to gain weight to compete in tournaments and stuff, and I just could never gain weight. So I always had that small, skinny build. So gaining like 50 pounds for me was like, what the fuck? I never had been that big before. And so that was like adding to it. And when you're out of shape and doing jujitsu, like, you get injured a lot, right? Like, if your body is not healthy and you're getting like a bigger stomach and you're getting stacked up, like, your neck gets compromised. And so I was getting hurt a lot. And I bounced around a bunch too at that point, to different schools. And so I had different instructors. And so it slowed down the whole process. And, I even remember so I got my brown belt in 2001. I had guys that were like, I remember this, started jiu-jitsu in 2001 as a white belt, and went through all their belts and got their black belt before I even got my black belt. So that was kind of a weird thing too. You're like, man, like, I'm just never going to get it. And then the shift that happened for me was around 2012, 2 years before I got my black belt. And it was kind of that moment of, either I'm going to continue doing jiu-jitsu. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to have to get in shape. And I'm going to have to treat myself differently. And I'm going to have to, fix a lot of things that are going on in my life if I'm going to do this. And this was a conversation that my wife and I had. I'm either going to do this, or I'm going to quit. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to have to find a different career. I'm do something different. And jiu-jitsu is maybe not for me. Maybe it's just not in the cards. Maybe I'm not going to be a black belt. And that was kind of the conversation that we had. And it was an intense conversation that, we cried a lot, and we were, like, do we do this anymore? Like, we don't have an academy, and like, we're working for other people, and we're not really making any money. And like, I'm never going to get my black belt. And it just felt like that. And so, I was having that like pity party. And then I had that moment of like, you know what, that's not me. At that point I had 2 small children, and it was like, how are my kids do jiu-jitsu? Like, what are they going to think of me if I quit and give up on this thing? And so we decided, I was going to do it. And at this point, my daughter was, I think, 5 at the time, 5 or 6. And she wanted to do her first jiu-jitsu tournament. And I hadn't competed in like 10 years at that point. I competed in early 2000s, but I was like out of shape, and I wasn't competing or anything. And I always told my daughter, if she ever did want to compete, I would compete with her. And so she said, okay, I want to compete. And so I signed up for a tournament. And that was like the pressure on myself to get in shape. And I lost, like I said, and I signed up I was like 199 or 201 at the time. Like, I was, the heaviest I'd ever been. I signed up to be at 175. So I had to lose like 25 pounds in like 2 months. And that was the pressure to do it. And like, I did, I lost like 25 pounds. My daughter went in this tournament. She got first place. It was really cool. And then I competed. It was like my first time in like 10 years. And I got first place. and it was a cool experience. And it's just kind of like I got addicted to it again. Like I wanted to start competing again. And I eventually ended up getting down to about 155, which is like my normal kind of body weight, you know, probably a little bit heavier than that now.
What was the highest you were at the
201,
zenith?
200, about
Okay.
200 pounds. And that was like just kind of all in one area too. Like it was just a big old belly. But I lost the weight, changed my diet, and changed a lot of things about myself. A lot of things, you know, if when you go back and look at me at that point, I physically looked different. Like my head was shaved, was out of shape. I look at pictures of myself. I had dark circles under my eyes. My face just looked like depressed, you know, like everything about me looked different. Like I didn't look healthy. I looked kind of sick. And I think I was. And, you know, getting back to competing again and putting out videos, that was a kind of a big shift for me. I never had put myself really out there before. And it was like, when did I put my first video out? I think it was right when I got my black belt is when I put my first video out. It was like right at 2014. I think it was in July 8th of 2014. I put a ninja roll choke video out. You ever see the ninja roll choke?
Yeah.
It's where you wrap your lapel around their neck and then you do a front roll, like you're in the mount, you pass, and then you go to side control and you roll. And I was like, it was just this move I was kind of playing around with. And I was like, I think I'll put a video online. You know, I had actually at that point, I had already set up BJJ after 40, but I hadn't done anything with it. Like I hadn't really put any videos out. It wasn't really doing anything. And so I told my wife, I want to make an instructional video and just put it online and just kind of see if people are interested in it. And we had scheduled a time to film this video, but I kept putting it off. Like I secretly didn't want to do it. Like I didn't even know if I was as conscious of it as I am now. Like I kept putting it off. And then we finally filmed it. What do you think happened? It didn't
blew up.
It didn't come out. It didn't come out the first time. We get it home, I play, it's all fucked up. And I'm like, oh man, see, that's a sign. I was like, the universe is trying to tell me, don't put out a video. And so my wife talked me into refilming it. So we filmed it again. This time I finally put it online. And like a popular site reposted it, and it just felt like, okay, well, people like it then. So I just started putting out a bunch of videos and, you know, putting out free content for people. I felt like, you know, it took—
It's 23,000 views on YouTube, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, that one's been out for a while. And there's, yeah, and so I felt like it took a lot for me to get my black belt. Like that 13 years, there's a lot of good lessons in there. And it just— the motivation and the inspiration to want to give back now to the community, to put out videos and put out free content and just put it out without asking for anything in return. You know, I put out some instructionals now that I sell, but most of my stuff, 90% of it, I mean, if you go to my YouTube channel, there's just hundreds and hundreds of free content, and same thing on my Instagram and Facebook. I mean, there's just tons and tons of stuff on there. And I've always kind of been that way, because the way that I look at it is, you know, we talk about molding the clay, continue molding the clay. If I put a move online, the triangle is a good example. When I put out the first triangle choke, a lot of people thought it was cool, but then a lot of people talk shit too, right? There were people that were like, dude, that's a unicorn move. I remember people specifically saying that, calling it a unicorn, right? I was like, that's kind of clever. Like, you're never going to see a unicorn. Okay. And so I had never done a triangle in competition, but I put the video out, and of course, like, somebody eventually did a triangle. There was a guy out here in Colorado. He hit one in Fight to Win. He sent me the video, and this was a few years ago. And I was like, oh, no shit. He got one in Fight to Win. That's so sick. And then a guy got one in the Pan Ams. And then a guy got the Worlds. And then people have gotten them, like, you know, there's, you can look it up. There's, most of them are on my YouTube channel, but there's all kinds of people that have gotten triangle chokes now. So, like, it wasn't me. Like, I put it online with the intent that other people can take this now and go do something with. You mold the clay, see how that works for you. And a lot of the moves that I put out, like, I haven't always gotten them in competition, but other people have, which is even kind of cooler. Like, I love seeing that. I had a guy that did, I have this choke called the Kraken choke. It's this weird, like, kind of legs and arms tangled up, kind of weird, you know, like the sea monster, the Kraken, release the Kraken, right? From Clash of the Titans. So I put out this Kraken choke video, and this guy sends me this message that, like, he lives like in Shanghai or something. And he doesn't train at a jiu-jitsu gym, and he only watches my videos, right? He doesn't have a gym he can go to. He doesn't have somewhere to train. So he goes to a tournament, enters the tournament, and he gets a Kraken choke. And I thought that was the coolest thing, because in his mindset, he didn't have, like, some black belt telling him that's not appropriate for him right now as a white belt. he just went and like watched the video,
Oh my
practiced it
goodness.
on like his homie, and then went to a tournament and like choked some fool out. Like, and he doesn't even like train at an academy. So like, and I'm not saying like people should just learn from videos or like that you're gonna become a black belt watching videos. It's not like that. But it's kind of cool that he did that, right? Like, you know.